President Barack Obama, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard released declassified documents on July 18, 2025, alleging that former President Barack Obama and his administration manipulated intelligence to create a narrative of Russian interference in the 2016 U.S. presidential election. Gabbard claims these documents, totaling over 100 pages of emails and memos, show a treasonous conspiracy by Obama officials, including James Clapper, John Brennan, and James Comey, to undermine Donald Trump's 2016 victory. The files reportedly indicate that pre-election intelligence assessments concluded Russia was probably not trying to influence the election through cyber attacks. Yet, Obama's team allegedly pushed a contradictory narrative post-election, relying on sources like the Steele dossier, which Gabbard claims lacked credibility. She has referred the documents to the Justice Department for potential criminal investigation. So let's get right into it. Tulsi Gabbard.
So brand new revelations into the alleged Russia hoax, a trove of declassified documents revealing evidence that the Obama administration manufactured and politicized intelligence during Trump's 2016 election.
The documents released by the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, described secret meetings after Trump's victory where Obama officials directed the intel community to leak reports that Vladimir Putin was personally involved in the U.S. election hack. This after the intelligence community repeatedly determined that Russia was not trying to influence the election by cyber means.
Here with more is DNI Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi, thanks for joining us. And some of those individuals were literally the leaders of the intelligence community under President Obama. How significant is these documents that you've released?
Thank you so much. And thanks for focusing on this issue that these documents have really brought to the forefront, because it's one that doesn't just affect Democrats or Republicans. It's not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is an issue with such significant impact that it should concern every American, because it has to do with the fabric and integrity of our democratic republic. That we had a situation here where in the months leading up to the 2016 election, the intelligence community assessed, and this is what the documents detail, the intelligence community assessed essentially Russia doesn't have the tools, the capability, or the intent to try to change the outcome of the U.S. presidential election. Donald Trump pulls off a historic victory against Hillary Clinton in November of 2016. Even in the days after that election, the intelligence community continued their consistent assessment that reflected the same thing in the months leading up to the election. All of a sudden, in the early days of December, there was a president's daily brief that was drafted. This is put together by the different elements of the intelligence community that reflected that same assessment. Russia did not try to hack the election, in essence. That PDB, that document, was pulled hours before it was supposed to be published for the president to see that following morning. That document was never published until we released it yesterday. One day later, President Obama calls a meeting of his National Security Council, his top officials, to be held on what they called a sensitive topic. And the results of that meeting, which we released yesterday, and these over 100 documents that talk about in detail how President Obama and his team, he directed a manufactured piece of intelligence that detailed not if, but how Russia tried to influence the outcome of the United States election that President Trump won in November of 2016. This document was then used as the foundation for everything that came next. It was essentially a years-long coup that was launched against President Trump before he even had the opportunity to take his oath of office and be sworn in as President of the United States. So, as you know, there was a Mueller investigation that went on for years, cost taxpayers nearly $40 million. There were 2 congressional impeachments. President Trump and almost every member of his family were smeared and attacked, faced lawsuits, depositions. High-level officials were investigated, some were arrested and put in jail. The list goes on and on about the ramifications of this, but foundational to it all was the fact that we had in President Obama and his leadership team people who did not want to accept the will of the American people in electing Donald Trump in 2016, and therefore cooked up this treasonous conspiracy to, again, try to effectively, and they did effectively, launch a years-long coup against the sitting president of the United States.
Director Gabbard, I'm glad.
Real quick, we want to know this. What exactly is going to be done? What's going to be done against these people, Barack Obama, who I voted for twice? This is treason. You take a look at a person like James Comey, he's allowed to threaten the president and act like, oh, well, I had no idea that that was a threat against the president. These people, they operate with impunity. Barack Obama, what it looks like, committed treason. They manufacture this whole hoax against President Trump to smear his name, smear his family's name. In the courtroom of public opinion, people have this disdain for President Trump because of these powerful people that manufacture these narratives. There is this powerful apparatus in politics that they all seem to be able to shape these narratives, man, and control the minds of the public. So that's why you have so many people that have Trump derangement syndrome. We want to know this. What is actually going to be done this time, if anything? So this is going to be hyped up. Oh my God, I can't believe Barack Obama is involved in something like this. And of course, there'll be pushback. But at the end of the day, we want to know, is anyone going to go to jail? We want to know.
Sure, Gabbard, I'm glad you used the word coup. I also, in some of your reports, the word treason has come up. We're seeing a lot of things coming to light these days, and it's very encouraging for Americans, especially this report, which so many of us knew this was a hoax. But this goes all the way to the top. I mean, this goes all the way to Barack Obama. Yes. Will we actually see someone as high up as Barack Obama take responsibility, be accountable, maybe face criminal charges? Is that a possibility here based on the documents that you've released?
She's going to answer this in a second, but I'm going to say no, because there'll always be someone that's a fall guy. I mean, it'll be the same thing with how they're talking about Joe Biden. There's always a fall guy. There's always something that they can use and spin to make it seem as if these people are not nefarious. Joe Biden, not nefarious. Hillary Clinton, not nefarious. Oh, Barack Obama, not nefarious. Donald Trump, nefarious. This is what they spin. But Donald Trump, President Donald Trump and his administration is being very transparent. And in addition to this, they're giving everybody what they want with the Epstein files, at least what they can legally get away with. Obviously, they have to go through the courts and everything, but they're giving us what we want.
Rachel, the seriousness of, again, the implications and the consequences of these actions that were taken demand accountability. The American people not only deserve the truth and accountability, when we look at the future of our country as a democratic republic and the American people's ability to have faith that when they go and cast a vote at the ballot box, that the will of the people will be respected by those in government, whether they be Democrats or Republicans. This is literally what is at stake here. So we are referring all of our documents to the Department of Justice for the purpose of accountability and action. No one, no matter who they are, no matter how high up they are or how powerful they may be, no matter who the intelligence officials or professionals were who were a part of this treasonous conspiracy, there must be accountability. The truth must be shown to the American people in order to ensure that there is this faith and trust and integrity in our democratic republic for the sake of the future of our country.
So as voters, can we feel confident that we will actually see charges, do you think, out of this?
I'm not a lawyer. We're referring all of this to the Department of Justice. I know that Attorney General Pam Bondi is committed to bringing about justice to those who have broken the law. And in this case, again, what these documents detail, to me, in my view, cannot be explained as anything but a treasonous conspiracy. This is not so different from what we saw under George W. Bush, when we saw that manufactured intelligence claiming there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq that kicked off a war that changed our country, that changed the lives of so many people like myself who went and served in those wars. The implications of manufactured intelligence are real. I would even say that what we are seeing here has an even greater impact than what we've seen in the past, because it speaks again to the foundation of our Constitution and our democratic republic, which is why accountability is so critical.
Amen to that. We can, and by the way, we cannot weaponize our intelligence community against our enemies, our political enemies. That is wrong, and there are huge consequences. Tulsi, thank you for declassifying this. This is amazing information. Some of us never thought it would come out. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tulsi.
Thank you.
All right.
That's a
She's definitely a patriot, and they're using intelligence, manufactured intelligence. Think about how dangerous that is. Tulsi Gabbard just alluded to Bush using this intelligence, talking about weapons of mass destruction, and subsequent to that, people found out the real reason the United States was over there, and it was for the oil. So now you take a look at this. Take a look at all the things that they've done to President Trump. This is how powerful these people are. They have drugged President Trump's name through the mud, along with his family members, right? They almost put President Trump in prison over a porn star and real estate dealings. But yet these treasonous acts, which have real world implications, right? Nothing happens to these people. Now, I understand that this has just been released, but I'm just going off of, past events. Nothing happens to these people, man. They get to operate with impunity, and it just lets you know the level of influence and power that these people have, man. Think about that for a second. This man potentially was involved in the Russia hoax. This thing back then, it was a big deal. This lets you know how people's memory, we're living in a time where, things just go by quickly. News cycles go by quickly. Information is processed quickly, and it's like, oh, it's no big deal anymore. This Russia hoax back then was a huge deal. This was a huge deal on what they were trying to put on President Trump. And now you see that there was this potentially, allegedly, this Democratic apparatus that was pushing this narrative, trying to discredit President Trump's election in 2016, and then basically using the people to be against President Trump in hopes of, I don't know, maybe getting him impeached or him not winning the following election, which he didn't. But there's theories about what really happened there as well. What brings me here into politics, right? I'm immersed in this now, man. I'm about politics every single day. I was never like this before. I was indoctrinated. I was just a typical a typical brother that was, hey man, vote Democrat. Hey, Democrat good, Republican evil. Well, something, now that I am immersed in this, I see that it is opposite. Now, I want to go ahead and take this back to Wall Street. This is what actually brings me here. The malfeasance that's in the stock market, the same players. You have banks, you have hedge funds, you have politicians. The politicians are the common denominator. You take a look at what's going on in Wall Street. These people get to operate with impunity. Very, very small fines for the money that they make, billions of dollars, and when they're caught, when these banks and hedge funds are caught, who has to regulate them? The SEC, the Securities Exchange Commission. And who are they? They're a government agency. And guess what happens? When they finally get caught, they give a small fine, less than 1% of the money that was stolen or made illegally. And then what happens? We find out subsequent to that, the SEC has to write off $10 billion because they can't collect the money. We in the wrong business. Who wouldn't want to be in that business, man? We can go ahead and make all the money that we want with impunity, get a small slap on the wrist, and then they don't even collect from us anyway. But we don't pay our taxes. Guess what happens, man? And then we find out with our taxes, they're nefarious with our taxes. Think about it, man. Look at all the things that has been disclosed. Now we see, okay, These people are nefarious with our tax money. They're stealing our tax money. They're enriching themselves with our tax money through NGOs and other things. They're enriching themselves by front running stocks. And this is crazy. This is crazy. And you know who gets punished? Us. And in the stock market, not only does retail investors get punished, but you have companies that get punished. A lot of them are American companies. These American companies don't even want to. They don't even want to IPO. Why? Why would you? Because they're going to allow these hedge funds to short you to death. There was a recent interview by the brother Charles Payne with Ryan Cohen, and Ryan Cohen actually explains this, man. You know, the fact that these people get to short companies and into bankruptcy to what? So they can go ahead and own the intellectual property. This is insane. But I know I went off into the stock market, but they're all interconnected. And the common denominator is corrupt politicians. So you have corrupt politicians here. This is crazy, man. You wonder how these politicians are worth tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, man, on a $200,000 salary. You and I can't do it. Yeah, I'm not doing it now. You know what I'm saying? I wish I was worth, $100 million. It'd be crazy. But we in the wrong business, man. Crime actually pays, I guess.
Short selling in GameStop has been legendary. At one point, it probably was valid, considering, again, past management. Just about everyone's asking about three things when it comes to this. First of all, why GameStop? And do you see any form of illegal synthetic shares or whatever it might be, illegal shorting? And what are you doing to fight back against this?
Even from when I made my original investment, I was fascinated at how much hatred there was towards an investment in GameStop. It was one of those things where, you would tell someone invested in GameStop, and they'd be like, "What? What are you invested in GameStop for?" And so, there's always been a lot of people on the other side of the trade, and I have my own personal views on it. I think that it's un-American to bet against business, but it's a free market. If you want to be on the other side, no problem. And if things work out, then those shorts ultimately need a cover, and that could ultimately be a good thing. So I don't think it's all bad. I don't really have much respect for short sellers, and someone who's ultimately not smart enough to find someone successful. They have to bet on someone's failure. But if things work out, then they got to cover. So let them short.
Yeah. And I also did.
Not once did the SEC go after any of the hedge funds who were nonstop shorting and distorting Tesla. Not once. The hedge funds would lie flat out on TV for their own gain at the expense of retail investors. Not once, literally 1,000 times. Not once did the SEC pursue them.
How do you explain this failure?
The incentive structure is messed up because the lawyers at the SEC are not paid well. It's a fairly low-paying job, but what they're looking for is a trophy from the SEC. They're looking for something they put on basically their LinkedIn.
Yeah.
From that, they can get a job at a high-paying law firm. That's exactly what the lawyer here did. And the reason they don't attack the hedge funds is because those hedge funds employ those law firms. And they know if they attack the hedge funds, they're affecting their future career prospects. So they sell small investors down the river for their own career. That's what actually happens. Regulatory capture.
Regulatory capture.
Yeah, not good.